Okay, we're just about to get started now. I can see people are joining. First of all, thank you very, very much for taking the time to join us on our Deep Vision webinar. Very looking forward to taking you through today's content. And for those people who obviously have seen the communicated objective of today, we're really going to be taking a view of determining reasons why your visitors abandon your marketing conversion funnel. So just a brief introduction, just to get us started and get into the format of today. I'd like to welcome myself and say hello. My name is Steve Coates and I am the Director of Expert Services at Solteq. I've got a background of around 19 years in IT, but around 7+ years in global customer experience consultancy, having really enjoyed the benefits of working across the world, but specifically in the last 4 years across the Nordics, Europe and the UK. The format for today's webinar is around about 20 minutes discussing the main body of the topic, looking into why people abandon marketing campaigns, really talking around marketing campaigns in general, but from a slightly different view to how you would have perceived this previously. Then we'll have a 10-minute view of Solteq Deep Vision, how we actually support you and your business to actually make and take benefits from your campaigns. And then we'll do a question and answer session at the end. Now, for those of you who are new to Microsoft Teams, there is a questions and answer button in there. So if you have any interesting comments during the webinar, please do not hesitate just to ask a question, and we'll pick those up at the end. Just a brief introduction to Solteq. So Solteq, we're a Nordic ID service provider, and really we specialise in digital business solutions in the software markets. Our mission really is to simplify the digital world, and hopefully what I'm going to show you today really is a benefit to show you how we actually go about doing that. So, without further ado, we'll get into the main content. So, what we find from a marketeer's perspective, and certainly in digital commerce, is that marketing really is the lifeblood of e-commerce applications and online businesses. As such, marketeers really are a critical element of the success of your digital proposition. That goes without saying, but it's often overlooked. One of the things certainly we've seen working with many online customers is that marketeers spend a significant amount of time, effort and expense to really drive traffic to your website. So because of that, we really need to understand the costs and the benefits that is bringing. Now, this was always going to be an element of discussion and topics over the next few months, but within normal economic situations, marketing budgets are critical. And obviously within the global markets at the moment, things are even further constrained. So that's why really paying attention to your ongoing campaigns, understanding how they work, understanding when they're underperforming is massively important, because essentially you can actually increase your budget by just optimizing your campaigns. And like I've said, that campaign optimization really is crucial. It drives revenue, but what is typically overlooked as well is the customer satisfaction and growth element. Without satisfied customers, we really do have a problem in continuing that growth, maintaining that customer loyalty, and really building the digital business. Get those campaigns wrong, as I'm saying, you really do risk generating detractors within your customer base, potentially within your loyal customer base. So this is something that we want to avoid at all possible costs. The challenge as we see it, and it's not just Solteq, but I've taken this quote from the CMO Council, only 5% of marketeers say they have mastered the ability to adapt and predict to the customer journey and to truly understand which actions will derive maximum value. Now that really is quite an astonishing statement to make, purely based on the fact that the amount of analytics that are out there, based upon the amount of effort that is spent, only 5% of marketeers are able to really say that they truly understand what derives maximum value. And what that actually states is that what we have been doing all along needs to change. It is not giving us the value and the data to be able to make decisions based on data. So from that introduction, what we're going to focus on today is the digital campaign execution, really through the lens of how a customer campaign runs. And in that, we're going to look at obviously the key metrics that we would all consider very important. So identifying positive and negative metrics, understanding the why things happen, why do we see abandonments, why do we see success, measuring the running campaign by understanding your customers' journeys, reducing the workload and effort for your marketeers, really crucially picking those golden nuggets out to spot the problem as it's occurring and fix that, determining with factual evidence struggle and failure within those campaigns, and then obviously to counter the point that I made earlier, really maximizing every customer visit that we can to build promoters rather than detractors. So what are the facts? And in several of my other webinars I've covered this. Facts are all very well and good, but they have to be taken in context, and more importantly, they have to be related to your business. But if we look at the generic facts, what we see is that 3% of average global e-commerce conversions are what the actual success metric looks like. 3+% are desktop and tablet users. So that's really quite interesting. 3% of those desktop and tablet users do convert. Whereas mobile is a full percent lower, actually, depending on where you look and which statistics you view, 2% is actually quite a high figure. What we do see, which is really interesting, is that 43% of visitors who are retargeted after they've had a problem are more likely to convert. Now, I say problem, but that may not necessarily be a problem. It might be a simple bounce. It may be that they've got far through the process. But 43% is a significant percentage to be able to re-engage with. And the last statistic is probably the most crucial of all. 81% of your site abandonments are ignored. So they're very well distributed facts, but again, they're benchmarks across the industry. What we really need to understand is how this happens within our estate, and also what we can do to make our trends better. How do we buck the curve and really kind of move forward? So to do that, what I wanted to discuss with you today was what this actually means to you. What does it mean to a marketeer? Well, I've taken two of the key main impacts that we see that actually impact marketing campaigns. They are firstly loss in digital campaign exposure. Now, this is typically due to ad fraud, but what we've seen is that 15% of marketing spend can actually be lost due to potentially either fraudulent activity or non-human traffic. And now that's a significant amount, and if we are paying that out, it essentially means that we are really throwing money away. So you have to be able to understand things like when click-through rates are really high and zero purchases are happening in a specific campaign segment. It's crucial to pick up on that. You know, are you a target of advertising fraud? Secondly, and most commonly, are things like negative issues related to functional and non-functional issues within your actual web proposition. So things like stock levels. We've been involved with a number of customers where they have physically driven paid users into empty or unavailable stock. And that obviously is something that we need to avoid and we need to know about. Things like incorrect promotion codes, technical issues, they often cause significant user frustration. And if you spent the money to get the customer there, you need to make sure that your website is working for you and making sure that you're actually leveraging those visits. And as we said before, 81% of online abandonment is totally ignored. So we have a significant opportunity to really bring back value. So on that note, and this is where we really get into the interesting topic of the discussion, is how do you identify positive and negative metrics? Well, marketeers certainly over the last 5 years at least have used very traditional methods, very similar metrics to measure success. And again, that is because of links to technology, availability, and actually, having the resources to actually look at a lot of these data points to understand negative behavior. And one of the things that these traditional analytics provide is they provide very flat data. And they include things like just simply the number of impressions, the engagement time, conversion percent, bounce rate, exit rate. Very, very good metrics, but if they're looked at very simply in a very unsegmented way, they don't really give you a significant amount of information. This is really where understanding your customer's journey will give you the why. And we really do need to understand why customers are leaving. And we really need to understand from your customer's perspective what their experience is. From that, we can gauge success and failure. And the way that I thought was best to kind of introduce this is that if you think of a football match as traditional analytics, it will give you the salient points. It will state you've got two teams. There are two halves. You can see the score, who won, who lost, and the duration. And from that, you can determine potentially several main points. But like a customer journey, there is so much more data to act upon to make your assumptions and findings actually factual. They could be things like understanding the weather. Was it snowing? Was it hot? Was it a good conditions to play a game? Were there individual team members that had a good performance? What was the emotion like and the atmosphere? All of these are obviously comparisons, but if you think of that in a campaign perspective, you can really understand that you have many areas of segmentation. As we've said, very simple things like device, traffic type, what the campaign segment was, which campaign source you were using, but there is so much more. And I'm going to introduce to you the concept of struggle. And this is really where we can heavily segment the data in much more granular fashion to show you real results from real evidence from how customers actually abandon, so you can act upon those. And it really drives me to this point, a question that I'd like you to ask yourself at this moment in time. Can you currently determine campaign issues, negative issues, from two-dimensional reports alone? Really, we feel the answer is no, and our customers feel that as well. You need to understand the true customer experience. So here we have a typical analytics chart, which is very useful. It gives us the amount of marketing sessions, the bounce number, and also the bounce rate. We can see the same thing from the funnel. The number of marketing sessions overall, checkout starts, the number of conversions, and the conversion percent. But what it doesn't tell us is that gap. And too often marketeers are having to make assumptions because they're not provided the data from the technical teams. They are having to liaise with many different parts of the organization to actually understand what has gone wrong. And obviously that introduces time delays, and it introduces incorrect assumptions. That leads to the possibility to have these problems over and over again. So when we look at things like marketing abandonment, the why, we can start to really break down what marketing abandonment is. And we've found very much that bounce rates are not always just because of a lack of interest. Customers don't react very well to poor experience. That could be anything, like I mentioned before, from stock levels to poor page performance to very poor content. Split tests often lead to very different customer behaviour. They're a very good thing to do, A/B testing, but again, it needs to be looked at under the lens of data. Why is one particular A/B test better than the other? Conversion rates can be impacted by functional and technical issues. That's clear, but can you state at the moment you understand what is a functional error and what is a technical error? And finally, the big one, competition is always one click away. Your marketing competitor, thanks to SEO and other elements, is often ranked right beside you when you run your campaigns. So we need to make sure that this data is available and you can act upon it quickly. And what you can see below is just one of our pre-baked events, which is actually listening 24/7 and is able to react and send you automated alerts. So what we built for our customers are key KPI metrics that look at things like campaign per page performance. So we get alerts when specific pages actually trigger poorly. So we understand that we've got performance issues. And to do that, what we've done is we measure KPIs automatically. So within the Deep Vision solution, we've actually provided our marketeers with pre-built templates to measure critical KPIs over time. All of the standard analytics are available, but we're looking for spikes in negative behavior. We're looking predominantly at negative bias. But to understand what's negative, we have to see what's positive. So as you'd expect, we're able to see all of the sources where campaigns are run from, revenue, average session duration, what the top performing campaigns are, and also immediately looking at abandonments. What does abandonment look like by traffic source? And what our customers need and what they've told us is that they need hard evidence. We need to use not only the KPIs and dashboards to understand how a thing's performing, but this is where we can really correlate a much wider and broader amount of segmentation. So this is all around struggles, and understand what struggles your marketing customers face. Quantify what has happened, where it's happened, and why it's happened. So here what we can see is within this example, we can see that the majority of our struggles, our customers who've had a problem, has been in the shop. Our highest performing or poor performing issue is page performance, but we can also see things like out of stock has happened. We can see failed searches happening, invalid promotion codes. This is all very granular data that can be used to really understand what's happening real time. And as I mentioned, once you understand what's happening, you have to adapt. You have to take that information that's being provided real time. You have to be able to identify and stop underperforming campaigns. So I'd like you to ask yourself at the moment, are you able to achieve this? When should I stop or restart a campaign? Is my conversion drop a result of errors, underperforming content, or stock levels? Something to really consider. So if you can answer yes to all those three questions, then you're an extremely mature organization. But having had the real pleasure to work with many retailers, I'm fairly aware that a lot of customers are not able to do this. So what I'm going to take you through now we've talked through kind of the main concepts of what we can do and how we can understand the performance of your running campaigns. I'm going to show you now how we can act and how our customers are able to act with Deep Vision to really kind of leverage the benefits and make the most out of their campaigns. So for this demonstration, we're running a campaign. And as I mentioned before, our solution gives you real-time alerts about struggles occurring in your campaigns. And what we can see here is that we've had an alert. We've had 2 alerts that greater than 50 invalid promo code errors have been seen in 15 minutes. So we're going to act on this. And what we're going to do is we set up our campaign. So what you can see here is that we set up a digital marketing campaign and we're going to do this. And this is our landing page. We can see that it's working as we expect in our test. So we're going to publish this. We're going to push it into multiple strategies. So we're going to push it into a lot of different areas. So we're going to push this into social, we're going to push this into paid and email content. And what you can see here, as I mentioned before, is that we can see all of our traffic sources. So like you would expect, we can see all of the data easily segmented. And what we can see in email is that we've got a high level of abandonment, a very high level of abandonment. But we have people who are purchasing. So this is good. So we know at least we've got that, but we've got high levels. Looking again at a more granular view of the data, we can see all of the typical elements that you would expect. So you can see the mediums, you can see the campaign, conversion rates, all of the elements that I said before, all of those two-dimensional reports that are critical for actually quantifying. Okay. And of course, with all of these reports, they're very, very dynamic. So we can use that to understand which area that we're going, which campaign is being acted upon. We can have a look at all of the typical metrics, such as CLID, UTM, custom campaign metrics. All are very straightforward and simple. And this is where simple segmentation can be used to be very powerful. Again, like I mentioned before, all of the typical elements that you would expect around bounce rates, being able to segment by traffic type, being able to look at this information. And this is what we would do at a normal thing, but we know we've had an alert. So what we want to have a look at is see, okay, is abandonment high? And we can see within tablet and desktop, it's normal, but we can see that we've got a high bounce rate across some of our sources. So that's something of interest. Now we can also have a look at checkout starts. So these micro conversions are, again, something that you potentially could be doing at the moment. But this is giving you all of the typical quantification and qualification that you need, really drilling down on where campaigns are coming from. And this is essentially what marketeers normally have to work with. From here, we'd then be looking to say, okay, well, we've seen a drop in conversion. We are only seeing really one particular area of conversion, which is quite low. We can see what's going on, but we're getting a really low level of conversion. So what on earth is going on? This is where Deep Vision really stands out from the competition, where we're able to immediately state struggle. And remember, struggle is a negative impact, and it can be anything. And what we can see here is we can see poor page performance, slow AJAX calls. These are the calls that are dynamic content, getting things like products. Out of stock is increasing. And here we can see an invalid promo code. So this was our alert. So what we can do is we can have a look at that and say, okay, well, we can see that we've seen 20 invalid promo codes, but the number was a bit larger. So let's have a look. Okay, so now if we include mobile and desktop, you can see immediately we've had a jump in the number of invalid promotion codes that we've been seeing. Now, this is data that is so difficult to get from other sources. Immediately, what we've been able to do is have a look at the typical campaign metrics, really look at marketing, and then we're able to switch to this much more granular view. And what we've done here is link from Deep Vision straight down into our session recording tool. And what this gives us is it gives us that massive level of granularity that I mentioned before. We're able to act real time and understand all of those users that have converted, all those users have not converted, and go directly down into the customer's journey. No longer do we have to question ourselves on what has happened. We can see things like interactions. We can use heat maps to see what data is actually occurring, what interactions are the customers using. We can go directly down into those customer sessions themselves. We now, for the avoidance of any doubt, know that we've got an invalid promo code error, and we can inform the relevant team. We can test. We can go through each of the elements and actually look at fixing these things. And with deep vision, we have a significant benefit of being able to reduce your find fault and fix errors. Here you can see we can even do things like understand if you've got color accessibility issues, all within the same tool. We've even got the ability to say, okay, well, if we have errors, can we identify any accessibility issues? So not only understanding functional content, but also putting power in the marketeer's hands to influence design, to state that when we have these problems, there are better ways of dealing with these, ultimately improving the customer conversion. And here you can see we go right down to the technical level of detail. And finally, once we've been able to establish that the problem has occurred, or the alert has reduced in frequency, then we can understand that that problem has gone away. So in a very, very roundabout fashion, what we've managed to achieve with that demonstration is we have been proactively informed that our campaign has had a problem. We've been able to look at the common metrics of our campaign, segment the data, investigate campaigns by source, medium, and content. We've been able to understand what campaign has had a problem. We've been able to understand what struggles customers have had. We've been able to segment that data in different ways, which marketeers typically do not have access to, but it gives the power and control back to marketeers to be able to make decisions. We've then been able to understand and prove that those issues have been fixed. So, thank you for listening to that element. It was really, hopefully, very useful to demonstrate what you are able to achieve and what you should be looking at. And obviously, I've really covered what deep vision is capable of doing, and also the concepts and theory behind the marketing promotions. But what I'd like to discuss is 3 really top tips on how you can optimize your campaigns and some of the benefits that we've seen working with our customers. And 3 top areas to really focus on that we find are really to understand when campaigns are failing. Are the problems related to content, stock levels, promotions, integrations, etc.? And really understanding that is key. That's why listening to our customers, we've really worked to understand this concept of struggle within the user journey. Number 2, and for all enterprise businesses, this seems relatively straightforward, but also for any other business out there, you really need to understand your ad fraud strategy. You need to be able to quantify when ad fraud is occurring. You cannot afford to lose budget and get nothing in return. And finally, analytics really are key. This seems like an obvious statement, but you need to be able to react quickly to any issues that occur. A poor campaign really does have the ability to damage your customer's relationship, their experience, and therefore have an impact on the brand, and we want to avoid that at all possible costs. Another real key area of focus is to deliver continuous improvement. And obviously our solution Deep Vision supports this. And really what it does is it puts a very simple 5-stage process in place. And using what I've demonstrated today, that is the ability to identify, quantify, and monetize issues. Understand what's impacting you and how important that is. Use BI metrics, KPIs, and trends to understand what the actual good looks like. What does good look like? What does bad look like? And then use that BI reporting to prioritize and focus your efforts to really drive continuous improvement. Really understand how you can build into your workflows, build into your whole digital strategy what should be fixed first based on data. And that really is the next stage, really making changes based on evidence. Do not make assumptions. There are solutions out there like Deep Vision that can support you to achieve this. Then measuring impact and return on investment. Crucial really to get a bit of buy-in from the key stakeholders within the business. And then of course that continues. And really Deep Vision has been built to support this entire process. So I would like to thank everybody for their attention, and I hope that was very useful. What we have for all of our attendees is we've got a special offer here where we've got 2 free proof of concepts for our webinar attendees. It really is a limited one-time offer, and it's on a first come first served basis. And what this includes is 1 to 2 weeks free data capture and analysis for one domain. We'll deliver you findings typically around marketing campaigns and how you can optimize those in an executive format. And contact details are here. This webinar will be shared on YouTube, so you will be able to get all of the information from there. So we are at the end, and thank you very much. I hope that was useful. It was very nice to be able to share our content with you.